Hey guys and gals, it's your buddies Drew, Ralphie, and RJ with Living History's Mysteries and Ferocious Feline Productions. You know, we are growing. We have gone up over 100 new members to our family in the last month, and every day it seems like there's 4 or 5 more joining our family. We are slowly but surely getting out there and becoming the place to go for history and the mysteries that history left behind. If you have a channel and you want to get your name out there, we're going to help every way we can. If you have merch, be it hats, t-shirts, coffee mugs, whatever the case may be, and you'd like to advertise that merch, get a hold of us at Living History's Mysteries, and we will be more than happy to display your merch on the channel with a link in the description below the videos where viewers can go to purchase your merch and bring some attention to your channel. It's just one more way we bring our little family closer together and help each other to grow and become what we envision ourselves becoming. Y'all take care. Hey guys and gals, it's your buddies Drew, Ralphie, and RJ with Living History's Mysteries and Ferocious Feline Productions. You know, throughout history, we have watched the evolution of mankind in multiple ways. But the sciences have made leaps and bounds throughout our history. One of the most famous scientists discovered something that ultimately was good and bad. Hold on.
Hello, Father. How may I help you today?
I need something on Madame Curie, but make it entertaining, humorous.
Madame Curie. and make
Check
them
this out.
humorous,
This is good.
easy.
Poland has produced its fair share of barrel-chested, mustachioed historical figures over the centuries. They've fought wars, started revolutions, and done plenty of other manly things. So what about the fairer sex? There's no shortage of strong female figures in Polish history, though it's true that domestically they're often overshadowed by their male counterparts. But there's one Polish woman recognised internationally at the same heights as Pope John Paul II and Robert Lewandowski. She was a scientist who made a name for herself outside of her homeland, at a time when Poland didn't even exist as a country. Together with her French husband, their research led to the discovery of two new elements of the periodic table and the world's most controversial source of energy. As a woman in a foreign land, she struggled to be recognized for her historic contributions, yet by the end of her life in 1934, she had broken new ground in science, for her gender, and in the representation of Poland in the outside world. This is the story of Maria Sklodowska, better known by her French name, Marie Curie. Maria Salomea Sklodowska was born on November 7, 1867 in Warsaw, then under the occupation of the Russian Empire. She was the fifth and youngest child of two teachers who, naturally, instilled the importance of education in their children. It was her father Władysław, a high school maths and physics teacher, who first piqued Maria's interest in the sciences and pursuing these subjects later on. But under Russian occupation, Warsaw's universities were forbidden to allow women to study, and speaking and teaching in the Polish language was illegal. For this reason, Maria and her sister Bronisława attended the Floating University, a patriotic and clandestine Polish institution that offered an alternative higher education to Polish men and women. Nevertheless, the lack of prospects in Warsaw would ultimately lead both Maria and Bronisława to pursuing an education abroad. Maria worked as a governess in order to help fund the start of her sister's medical degree in Paris, and got her first taste for laboratory work via her cousin at the Museum of Industry and Agriculture in Warsaw. Finally, in 1891, she made the life-changing decision to move to Paris herself. Sklodowska was certainly not the first Pole to migrate to France in the 19th century. Since the total occupation of Polish territories in the late 18th century and subsequent patriotic uprisings, all of which were brutally crushed, a historically sympathetic France had become the home of a sizable expat community of Polish intelligentsia. Notable figures of this era include the famed pianist Frédéric Chopin, the poets Adam Mickiewicz and Juliusz Słowacki, the wacky inventor Jan Józef Baranowski, and the author Józef Korzeniowski, better known in English as Joseph Conrad. 19th century France was also at the forefront of technological and scientific advancement, and Paris was regarded as the capital of the modern era. It was in this environment that Maria, now going by the French Marie, enrolled at the University of Paris, also known as the Sorbonne, tackling physics, chemistry, and mathematics, all in French, a language still very much foreign to the young Pole. Living on the cheap in an unheated attic apartment and supporting herself as an evening tutor, Sklodowska earned a degree in physics in 1893, graduating first in her class. This was followed up by a degree in mathematics in 1894. It was around this time that Sklodowska first crossed paths with Pierre Curie, an instructor at the School of Physics and Chemistry, and an already established physicist and crystallographer. Ironically, it was their mutual interest in magnetism that brought the scientifically minded duo together. When Pierre eventually proposed, Maria was already considering returning home to Poland and pursuing a career, albeit limited. On the other hand, she could stay in Paris and enjoy the freedom of her research. Ultimately, it was a rejection from the Jagiellonian University in Krakow that made her decision for her. She was now committed to staying in Paris, and Maria and Pierre Curie were married in 1895. The newlywed scientific power couple would have 2 children together, Irene in 1897 and Eve in 1904. But despite the demands of motherhood, Sklodowska's life very much revolved around laboratory research and her upcoming doctorate in physics. She looked towards the new discovery of X-rays, which, in 1895, had been produced by the German scientist Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen after his experiments with vacuum tubes. The wondrous images of skeletal forms that he'd been able to produce sent shockwaves around the world's scientific community, and naturally, Sklodowska was equally mesmerized. She decided to pursue this field of interest in her own way. A French scientist, Henri Becquerel, had discovered a similar kind of ray that was emitted by uranium salts, albeit much weaker. More interestingly, the rays also had the ability to electrically charge the air around them, though again, at a very low level. To finally measure this reactivity, Sklodowska and her husband used their own unique version of an electrometer to further test uranium and other elements. This painstaking research would reveal that the element thorium also possessed a similar property for which Sklodowska would famously coin a new term, radioactivity. But that was just the start. She also tested pitchblende, the raw material used to create uranium, and discovered that it was 400 times more radioactive than uranium itself. This led Sklodowska to infer that there must be another compound or element that had yet to be discovered. And she was right. In 1898, after further refining their material, they announced the discovery of a new radioactive element. Maria Sklodowska could have named it after herself, Marium Sklodowska-Curium. But instead, she chose to name it in honor of her homeland, polonium, a profound gesture for a country that no longer existed on the world map. Still, however, there were properties indicating that another radioactive element still remained. And so they continued to manually refine pitchblende in their laboratory space in order to quantify the missing piece of the puzzle. After 4 years of tireless work, Maria Sklodowska and Pierre Curie had reduced 10 tons of pitchblende to exactly 1/10 of a gram of a second new element, radium, 900 times more radioactive than uranium. This was nothing short of monumental, and the announcement of these 2 new elements made the scientific couple celebrities overnight. A Nobel Prize was certainly in order, for which Pierre Curie, along with Henri Becquerel, were nominated in the physics category for the discovery of radiation. But Maria Sklodowska, the woman who had very much spearheaded the research, was not mentioned. Pierre Curie, however, would not accept this oversight, and he wrote to the Nobel Committee in Sweden demanding that she be included. On the 10th of December, 1903, Maria Sklodowska became the first woman to ever receive a Nobel Prize. Shortly after, Pierre Curie was made head of the physics department at the Sorbonne. At this stage in their lives, Maria and Pierre were already suffering from the now well-known side effects of radiation exposure. Pierre Curie was already starting to suffer from ailments, most notably stomach pains and fatigue. But it would be something far more tragic that would ultimately take his life. In 1906, whilst crossing the street on a rainy day in Paris, he tripped and was accidentally run over by a horse and carriage, killing him instantly. Maria Sklodowska was devastated by the loss of her husband, but found solace in immersing herself in her work, just as Pierre would have wanted it. In place of a widow's pension, she was offered her late husband's recently acquired position at the head of the physics department at the Sorbonne. She accepted, making her the first female professor in the university's history. Nevertheless, she still lacked acceptance in a male-dominant scientific community and was rejected from a position at the French Academy of Sciences in 1911. In the same year, Maria would win a second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry, for the discovery of polonium and radium. This made her the first person and the only woman to win a Nobel Prize twice. However, she very nearly didn't accept the award after the press discovered that she'd started a romantic affair with her deceased husband's former student, Paul Langevin. The scandal of this foreign home wrecker corrupting a married Frenchman led the Nobel Committee to request that Sklodowska not travel to Sweden in order to accept the award. However, it was the one and only Albert Einstein that came to Sklodowska's defense and stated that the bad press should not affect the committee's decision. This was certainly not the end of her achievements. Sklodowska had created the Radium Institute in Paris, now known as l'Institut Curie. This institute would go on to produce 4 more Nobel Prize winners, most notably her daughter Irene and her son-in-law Frédéric Joliot-Curie. When World War I broke out in 1914, Sklodowska actively supported the war effort by developing mobile radiography units to perform X-rays in the field. These units are estimated to have saved the lives of 1 million soldiers. Sklodowska even tried to cash in her gold Nobel Prize medals to donate to the Allied war effort, an offer which was turned down. Despite her long connection with France and even becoming a naturalized French citizen, Sklodowska never lost her sense of being Polish. She hired Polish nannies for her daughters, ensuring that they would learn and speak the language. They made frequent trips to her homeland over the years to hike in the Tatras and visit family. In 1925, Sklodowska participated in the ceremonial laying of the foundations for a Radium Institute in Warsaw. Sklodowska's dedication to her research ultimately came at a price. The effects of radiation exposure continued to deteriorate her health as she aged. Finally, on July the 4th, 1934, Maria Sklodowska-Curie succumbed to aplastic anemia. She was 66 years old. Originally, she was buried alongside her husband in a Parisian cemetery, but in 1995, the couple were moved to the famed Panthéon. Maria Sklodowska is the only female and foreigner to be buried there. Her sarcophagus is lined with 2.5 centimeters of lead in order to contain the radiation. Even today, many of her papers and artifacts are too radioactive to be handled without proper protective gear. Today in Poland, Maria Sklodowska is heralded as a national icon. There are countless streets and institutions named after her, including the Maria Sklodowska-Curie University in Lublin and the Warsaw Radium Institute, which in 1951 was renamed the Maria Sklodowska-Curie Institute of Oncology. But her contributions to science have made her a household name all over the world, even if most people only remember her as Marie Curie. Maria and her husband Pierre could have chosen to patent their discoveries and capitalize on their existence. Instead, they chose to share them with the world, because as Maria saw it, radium and polonium had not been invented, they had merely been discovered. For this reason, further advancements in human technology were made possible, forever changing the way we live. This is the legacy of one of the most unlikely of characters, a financially disadvantaged foreign woman with a brilliant mind, taking on the male-dominant scientific establishment in the late 19th and early 20th century, and completely overriding anyone's expectations. Her story will certainly not be forgotten.
Welcome back. You know, it's like I was saying in the beginning. We have made leaps and bounds as a species, as a culture. Some good, some bad. There's always room for improvement. But when you risk your own life to make those improvements, well, needless to say, it's never good. But that's all we got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this look back at the life of Marie Curie. It's a sad story. Put us where we are today. Until...
Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless you. God love you with you.
Halt.
And we'll see you out there.
We'll see y'all next time.